Okay, I think we are live. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm sorry, I'm 2 minutes late. I always forget how long it takes to download my slides onto StreamYard. But anyways, welcome. Happy Monday. So happy you are here to join me today. Hopefully, you had a great weekend. It was cold here in Virginia, but it was great because we had no sports this weekend. So that was nice. I could catch up on things that I wanted to do and just enjoy my family. So welcome everybody. Hopefully you have your lunch with you. You can sit down and enjoy this. Just sit back and enjoy the presentation. If you get a chance, feel free to go into the chat section. Let me know who's here, where you're coming from. Just, give me a shout out, name of the state that you're from. And it's always fun to see. If you ever have any questions, also, you can just put your questions into the chat section. So our topic today is very, very important. And I love this topic. I love talking to my clients about this topic because people have a tendency to forget. They forget how important our bones are. We really take it for granted. And then it's only until later in life when we start to have issues that we're thinking about it. And then by then, then a lot of damage has been done. But it doesn't mean that if you are older and you are looking at this now that you can't make changes, because you can. So the topic today is building better bones. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. All right. So, you've probably heard a lot. I know I've always heard this. Maybe some elderly people are prone to falling down more often and they break their bones. You always say, oh, so-and-so fell down and broke their bones. But sometimes it's because their bones are breaking and they're falling down. And that's because their bones are weak. So as we age, also, balance is one of the first things to go. So again, if you fall down and you don't have good bone density, your bones are apt to break more easily. It's not a good combination. So, many people, they think that bones are actually a solid piece of material. You think you always see the skeleton and you hit on it. And you're like, oh, this is really solid material. But really, if you take a closer look at the inside of bones, it really is a matrix of structural material that is breaking. It's breaking up, breaking down, and then building back up all throughout our entire life. So let me see the next slide. Here we go. So before I go on, let me just introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Cynthia Palmerino. I go by Cindy. You can call me Cynthia if you want. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been a registered dietitian for over 30 years. I work in private practice, and my company is energizeyoursize.com. And the areas that I spend time with are sports nutrition. I help people with losing weight, so weight management. I also work a lot in cardiovascular health, such as maybe you're suffering from high cholesterol, your doctor told you have hypertension, high blood pressure. Maybe you have type 2 diabetes. I also work with pediatric patients as well, helping them either gain weight or also lose weight. I've competed in numerous half marathons and the Wildflower Half Ironman. I'm an avid workout person. I love working out. I'm a big runner, and I do enjoy lifting weights as well. And I'm also a mom of a now 17-year-old daughter who competes competitively in both soccer, swim, and track. And a lot of those are done at the same time. So I have a lot of experience in knowing how to fuel athletes so that they can perform at their best. All right, so as I was talking about before, here are some pictures of what the inside of a bone looks like. It's not all solid. It actually looks a little bit like what I think is like a sponge. You can see it's very porous, and it has some nooks and crannies and holes. And, you know, that's actually kind of a good thing. That makes the structure of bones actually more durable when it's built like that. So, the bad news about, first of all, the good news is that, when we're young, our bones are building up faster than they're breaking down. But the bad news is that as we get older, particularly, starting in our 20s and by about age 30, we're really breaking down bone faster than we are building it. So that's why it's so important when you're young to build a very solid foundation of bones. Because as you get older, it's really hard to get back to a nice, solid, a good, I guess, foundation of bones because you're going to be losing more. But what does that mean? So, does this mean that it's too late for those who are no longer in our 20s? Absolutely not. It's just even more important for us to make sure that our bodies have the right stuff so we can slow down the process of losing our bone density. It's even more crucial for women to pay attention to their bone health because estrogen helps to control the breakdown of bones. And as we approach menopause, estrogen decreases. It leaves us vulnerable to weakening bones. And there's a little adjustment period there until our body can sort of figure things out a little bit. But in the meantime, we do have a tendency to lose a lot of bone. And, if we're not doing the things, consuming the things in that we need to do, then we're going to have problems later on in life. So, but don't think that if you're a man, that you're not at risk of osteoporosis, which is considered low bone density. Both men and women have increasing bone loss as we age. And I have some little samples, visuals back here for you, if you can see them at all. This first one is how much calcium is in an adult body. It's about 1,260 grams of calcium. So you can see this. And then here is a 15-year-old boy. They have roughly about 800 milligrams of calcium. So you can see the comparison of the two. So as adults, we've, have some more calcium. But what is scary is somebody who this is a body of somebody who would have osteoporosis. And remember I told you that the adult has 1,260 milligrams of calcium? Well, somebody who has osteoporosis has about 780 grams of calcium. So there is a huge difference. If you can, let me put that side to side for you. Don't know if you can see this well enough, but let's get in front of the camera. There you go. So it's a big difference. You really don't want that to be happening. And, there's things that we can do to help prevent it or at least slow down that bone loss. And what are they? So what can we do? So the first thing that we can do is make sure that we are eating adequate calories. Many studies have looked at how low-calorie diets affect bone density. And they found that eating less than 1,000 calories per day had a significant effect on bone health. So you hear about these people who are going on these very low diets. Well, you're really at risk of very low calorie diets. You're really at risk of affecting your bone health. You should be only doing those if you're under the supervision of a doctor, because they'll make sure that you are zoning in on the essential nutrients that you're going to need to try to keep those bones strong and well nourished. So they do recommend that, you should probably never, ever be going on a diet less than 1,200 calories per day. If you do, it should be under medical advice for sure. All right, the next thing that's really important is Increasing your fruits and vegetables. Well, you've never heard me say that, right? Of course. Increasing fruits and vegetables, just another reason to be upping your fruits and vegetables. They're loaded with antioxidants, which is a substance, I've talked about this before, that helps to protect our body cells from damage. And one study actually published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2010 showed that a high intake of green and yellow vegetables were linked to high bone mass. Vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, actually stimulates our body to make cells that help to form our bones. So those would be things such as bell peppers, citrus, which we have over here. We have the kiwi and the limes and the lemons and the oranges and grapefruit. And then tomatoes is another one that's high in vitamin C, as well as strawberries. Those are all examples of foods containing vitamin C. But the best bet is to make sure that you are getting an array of fruits and vegetables, because there's lots of other nutrients in those things, and it all works together. You can't zero in on just one nutrient and think that you're going to be correcting a problem, because you'll be missing out on others if you're only zeroing in on one type of fruits and vegetables. I always tell my clients, make sure that you're eating from the rainbow. Try to get them as colorful as possible. And that way you're making sure that you're getting lots of different vitamins and minerals. So the next thing we want to make sure that we do for our bone health is that we consume calcium containing foods. So we always, of course, what's the one thing we think about when we think about calcium? Everybody goes, oh, well, milk, right? Everybody thinks, oh, drink milk. Well, and that is true. We probably all know that milk is important for your bones, but that's not the only place to meet that's not the only food where you can meet your calcium needs. Here's some other sources that you can look at how much you should be consuming every day. So you can see here that the requirements, I don't know if you can read this because it might be a little bit tiny on your end, but if you're not age 9 to 18 years of age, you need about 1,300 milligrams of calcium a day. If you are 19 to 50 years of age, you need 1,000 milligrams per day. And if you're 51 years or older, your calcium actually gets up to 1,200 milligrams per day. And, just to put that into perspective, 1 cup of milk is about 270 milligrams to 300 milligrams per day. Okay. So I guess the higher fat has a little bit less milk in it. Buttermilk, yogurt, cheese, all the different cheeses. Also, 1 ounce has anywhere from, 50 milligrams, the brie cheese, to the harder cheeses and mozzarella cheeses, which have 270. Swiss cheese has 270 milligrams for 1 ounce. And cottage cheese, half a cup of that is 65 milligrams. It all adds up. Ice cream or ice milk, half a cup of that is 100 milligrams. And then if you're like, oh, I can't do dairy because it upsets my stomach, I have diarrhea, for whatever reason you can't do it, there are non-dairy sources of calcium. Those would be sardines. You have to make sure that they are the ones that are canned in oil and they're with the bones, because it's the bones that actually have the calcium in it. 3 ounces of that would be 325 milligrams. But if you don't like sardines, there's not a lot of people, I should say there's not a lot of people, but there's quite a few people probably that don't like sardines. I like sardines. Orange juice, you have to make sure it's not orange juice. The orange juice doesn't normally have calcium in it, but they do have orange juices on the shelf that the companies add calcium to it. So you have to make sure that you look for that it says calcium it's fortified. The 6 ounces of that would be 375 milligrams. Tofu, the soft, made with calcium sulfate. Again, read your label. Half a cup of that is 253 milligrams. Sprinkling sesame seeds on food, 3 tablespoons of that is 265 milligrams. Soy nuts, blackstrap molasses, if you ever bake with that. And then there's things like almond milk and rice milk. You have to, again, check that they're fortified with calcium, and that's pretty much the same as cow's milk. And then there's some vegetables also that have some calcium in it as well. So turnip greens, either fresh or boiled, half a cup of that is almost 100 milligrams. Kale, either whether cooked or chopped. Chinese cabbage, broccoli, okra, and then we have supplements as well that have it. So you can look for those supplements. There's Tums, has 500 milligrams, and you just have to make sure that you don't consume too much calcium at one time. Your body likes to absorb 500 milligrams, no more than 500 milligrams at a time. So if you are doing a supplement, you'd want to do maybe 500 milligrams in the morning and 500 milligrams in the evening. But don't think that, you probably, the best source of calcium is going to be coming from food, right? But it's not a bad idea to take a calcium supplement, especially if you consume inadequate quantities of the foods that we just talked about here. But again, like I said, if you are taking the supplement, it's best to take it no more 500 milligrams at a time. So break it up, morning, evening. And that will just mean that, you just need to spread those calcium supplements throughout the day. But don't just bank on the fact that, don't say, oh, well, I don't have to eat fruits and vegetables because, I'm taking my calcium supplement, because there are so many other nutrients that are in fruits and vegetables that we need. Okay, so I have a question for everybody, and feel free to put it in the chat. Here is the question. What vitamin is needed to help with the absorption of calcium? Is it A, vitamin E, B, is it vitamin B, or C, is it vitamin D, or is it none of the above? So if you are bold enough, go ahead and put your answer in the chat. Let me see if I can look here. If anybody's putting anything in the chat or comments. You can put things in the comments if you want. Nobody is going to take a chance. Well, if you're at home, or if maybe you are looking at this, I do post, by the way, I do post all my Lunch and Learns on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/energizercise. You can pull this up and go back to it and rewatch this. I'll keep this up for some time. But anyways, so the answer is vitamin D. So it's important to get enough vitamin D. Vitamin D and calcium, they work together. And that's why a lot of times why you see on those milk cartons that they might say has added vitamin D to it, because the companies know that, well, milk already has calcium in it naturally. But if you put in the vitamin D, then the body is actually going to have more benefit and be able to absorb calcium better. So vitamin D, it's known as the sunshine vitamin, and we actually can get that from the sun. It doesn't take much to get much time in the sun. But while this sounds easy to get adequate amounts of vitamin D, it's actually found to be very low in a lot of people. It's estimated at about 1 billion people are low in vitamin D, and most of them don't even know it. So why is this? So, a lot of us are now being careful, me included. We're being careful with our sun exposure, right? Doctors are saying, stay out of the sun, wear sunblock, because you can lead to wrinkles and skin cancer. You have to be careful. So that's what people hopefully are doing, is they're wearing sunscreen, or they're wearing clothing to protect their skin from the sun. And that's a good thing. We should be doing that. There's also people with darker skin, and maybe people who live in areas with limited sunshine. Hello, Alaska. They have a tendency to absorb less of the important rays that contribute to the vitamin D. And It also could be maybe you're working night shifts and you're sleeping during the day. You're all higher risk of vitamin D deficiency. Also, people who are overweight also have a higher risk. So let's just take a look at how much sun we would need and what food sources can help boost our vitamin D levels. So if you were to take, if you were considered low in vitamin D, a doctor might prescribe you, 50,000 IUs. That's a lot. I wouldn't suggest you do that unless you have a doctor's recommendation for that. Over-the-counter vitamin D pills range anywhere from 400 to 5,000 micrograms. Before you start taking vitamin D, I'd check with your doctor and have them prescribe some vitamin D for you. He'll probably check your D levels first just to see where you're at. But let's just make sure that we include vitamin D foods in our diet. And it's really hard to find. There's not a lot of foods that have vitamin D in it. So it's a little bit more difficult to get vitamin D. And I do recommend my clients to get their vitamin D status checked. And calcium and vitamin D would be the two supplements that I do recommend. And here are some food sources for vitamin D. Salmon, the sockeye, has 794 IUs for 3 ounces. Tuna, which is canned in water, has 154. Mackerel, 388 for 3 ounces. And then milk with added vitamin D can range for 1 cup from 115 to 124. Let's see, what is this over here? Let's get myself out of. Okay, there we go. Oops. When I remove myself, it removes my audio. Well, I don't want to. Let's change. Maybe I can change my location here. There we go. Oh, that's much better. I did this last time too. I forgot about that. All right, so down here it says orange juice. Remember, we can, just like orange juice is fortified with calcium, the orange juice also, they'll add vitamin D to it, and you can get about 100 IUs for 8-ounce cup, and then yogurt as well if it has added vitamin D, because it's not naturally in yogurt either. And here's the requirements over to the right. So anyone 0 to 12 months is 400 IUs, 1 to 70 years of age is 600 IUs. And then if you're 70 years of older, you need 800 IUs per day. So make sure you get that, because vitamin D is really important to help that calcium get into the bones. The next thing is make sure you're consuming foods with specifically vitamin K2. There's different types of vitamin Ks, but specifically vitamin K2. It helps what vitamin K2 does is it helps a particular protein bind to the minerals in your bone, which then results in the prevention of calcium being lost from the bones. So these are the places where you would find vitamin K2. Here the handout says vitamin K2 is important for bone health. It can change a protein called osteocalcin that can help with the formation of bones. This change helps osteocalcin attach to minerals in the bone and prevent calcium loss that can lead to a decrease in bone density. So it's found in limited amounts in eggs and meat, but it's also found in fermented foods such as cheese, sauerkraut, which is down here, and then something called natto, which I have not had before. It's a type of soybean product. So you can find that. It also comes in supplements as well. And once again, just check with your doctor. And if you're somebody that says, oh, I really don't drink a lot of milk, I find in particular men are not really good about drinking milk. They wouldn't just sit down and drink a glass of milk. And most of us, as we get older, we don't. I do. I like milk, so I make sure I know it's important for my bones, so I do that. But people forget about that. And that's an easy way to get your calcium in. But like I had showed you before, there's other sources of calcium as well. All right, so that was K2. The next thing is make sure that you're eating adequate protein. So studies, first of all, did you know that 50% of bone is made of protein? Studies have shown that not enough protein intake leads to a decrease in calcium absorption. However, there's always a however, right? However, too much protein can actually pull calcium from the bones because calcium will help to reduce the high acidity in the blood that's caused from too much protein. So again, it's a balance. And to be safe, that's why this choose my plate over here that we talk about a lot is so important. It's a balance of food. So here are the concepts again, if you've forgotten, that half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. And then you see here, just a quarter of your plate really is coming from protein. That would be things like your, the meat, fish, chicken, eggs, shrimp. And then don't forget beans. So you can also make sure that you're replacing some of these meat products. Replace them with some of the plant-based because these are all really heart healthy. So the legumes, tofu, lentils, those are all substitutes for these other protein foods. So mix it up a little bit. And then you can see here, choose my plate. Don't forget the dairy here. So that's also in there. All right, the next thing is to limit alcohol. There is a huge link between alcohol and osteoporosis. So the National Institute of Health has listed the following causes of the link. So excess alcohol can disrupt calcium balance. It also interferes with production of vitamin D. Remember, vitamin D is needed to help with the absorption of calcium. Heavy drinking can also affect hormones in both men and women. In men, their testosterone is reduced, which can lead to a decrease in cells that activate bone formation. And in women, chronic drinking can affect the menstrual cycle, which will reduce estrogen levels, which estrogen, again, we know are needed for bone density. And it also drinking affects cortisol. Cortisol is elevated, causing a decrease in the formation of bone while increasing the breakdown of bone. So watch your drinking. This would be, if you're doing a lot of excess drinking. The next thing would be don't smoke. So there's many studies that show a direct link between smoking and osteoporosis. Again, the National Institute of Health has written that women who smoke enter menopause sooner. Another reason not to be smoking. It also leads to a decrease in estrogen, which, as we know, as I've said before, estrogen is needed for bone density. And so what it does is it increases bone loss. Other causes of decreased bone density in smoking is unclear, but the NIH has said that it could be attributed to a higher percentage of smokers having risk factors, such as you find that smokers tend to have a tendency to be thinner, they drink more alcohol, they have poor diets, and they may exercise less. That's a generalization, but and those are all risky behaviors for that can lead to osteoporosis and thinning of the bones. And we know smoking's not good for us anyways, right? For other reasons, even besides just osteoporosis with lung cancer. All right, the next thing is exercise. So were you aware that exercise is not only good for your heart, but it's necessary for your bones? So weight bearing, it's that pounding that helps with getting those the calcium and all those important minerals into the bones. Weight bearing and strength training exercises help to build strong bones. Where this bone growth occurs is actually specific to the type of exercise. So for instance, walking and running helps bone density in the legs and the spine, but it's not going to help the bone density, say, in your wrist. That's according to the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Some examples of exercise of the weight-bearing activities would be jumping rope, running, jogging, walking, some sport activities like soccer, tennis, volleyball, basketball, dancing. That's always kind of fun. It's important to talk to your doctor before beginning any exercise program, because people with low bone density, if you already have low bone density, you're at a higher risk of stress fractures. So make sure that you talk to your doctor first, because you don't want to do more harm than good. Strength bearing or strength training exercises involves resistance to the muscles, and that places stress on the bones, which is good, and it helps with bone growth. So that's why strength training is so great, because it provides that stress as you build the bone, and you're lifting, you're pulling, and that activates the bone to make increase its bone density and make itself stronger. And some examples of strength training would be your machine weights, free weights, elastic bands, even just body weight exercises, push-ups and pull-ups. Here she's doing a modified push-up, which is good, where you're on your knees. Or if you want to do a regular push-up, you would go off your knees and just do a regular push-up as well. So protecting your bones early and throughout your life is important. By working these recommendations into your daily life, you can actually help grow and sustain healthy bone density. Strong bones are going to allow you to live a long and active life, so you actually can continue to do things that you love to do as you age. You need to talk to your doctor about whether you would benefit with taking calcium, vitamin D, and K2 supplements. But, again, don't think that supplements are going to replace a well-balanced diet and a healthy lifestyle. These things will not only help you maintain strong bones, but it'll help you prevent other issues such as heart attacks and stroke, among other health issues. So now, just in summary, eat adequate calories, increase your fruits and vegetables, consume calcium-containing foods, get enough vitamin D, make sure you consume foods with vitamin K2, eat adequate protein, limit alcohol, don't smoke, and exercise. Lots of different things that you can do to help with your bones. All right, so don't forget to join my free newsletter. You just need to go to my website, which is energizeyoursize.com, and there'll be a pop-up box. You just put your name in there. And your email address, and you will get monthly newsletters that have topics such as this on it. You can follow me on Instagram, and here is my Instagram handle. And if you are looking to improve your health goals and you're confused, or you just need somebody to work through and support you, that is what I do. You just need to contact me, Cindy at energizeyoursize.com. I do take insurance. Or you can also call me or text me at 858-212-7239. All right, everybody, have a great day, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. One thing also is I do have a program and that's also on my website. You can see that as well. That will go through various topics such as this, and just so you can take back your health. All right, everybody, we will see you next Monday with another topic. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.